Have you ever wondered what an annual checkup for a massive global company would look like? Well, today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to put on our lab coats, metaphorically speaking, and give the Coca-Cola Company a full physical, based on its 2025 performance report. We'll check its pulse, test its reflexes, and figure out just how healthy this giant really is.
Okay, before we jump in, we've got to get the usual disclaimer out of the way. Just remember, this whole deep dive is for educational purposes. We're here to break down the report and learn something new, not to hand out financial advice. All right, let's get into it. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the vital signs, the big splashy numbers. Then we'll decode the diagnosis, which has a really interesting twist. After that, we'll look at its sources of strength, do a quick global examination, check out its wellness plan for the future, and then wrap it all up with our final prognosis. All right, first things first, let's check those vitals. Just like at the doctor's office, we're starting with the most basic, top-line numbers to get a quick read on the company's health. So check this out. For the full year, Coca-Cola pulled in a mind-boggling $47.9 billion in net revenue. I mean, to give you some context, that's more than the entire economic output of some countries. It's a huge number, and it's our first big vital sign.
Now, what does that mean compared to last year? Well, it's a 2% growth in net revenue. You know, for a company this massive, you're not always going to see explosive jumps. What this shows is steady, solid, forward movement, the kind of stability people look for in a giant like this.
And our final vital sign is comparable earnings per share, which landed at a nice round $3. You can kind of think of this as the company's pulse. It's a really key measure of profitability for investors. So at first glance, the vitals, they look pretty strong. But like any good doctor knows, you can't just stop at the surface. It's time to dig a little deeper and decode the diagnosis. And this is where things get really interesting because we find this weird story of two totally different profit numbers. Okay, get ready for this, because it's a bit of a head-scratcher. In the fourth quarter, the company's official, reported operating income was down. A lot. A shocking 32%. But then you look at what they called their comparable income, and it's up a very healthy 13%. That's a 45-point difference. How is that even possible? So yeah, what is going on here? How can two numbers that are supposed to measure the same thing be pointing in completely opposite directions? Let's figure it out. The whole mystery comes down to this accounting term, items impacting comparability. It sounds way more complicated than it is. Think about your own budget. If you had a one-time expense, like a major car repair, you wouldn't say your financial health is permanently broken, right? It's a one-off. That's what these are, unusual financial events that don't reflect the normal day-to-day business. And in this case, the surprise car repair was a really, really big one. We're talking about a nearly $1 billion accounting charge connected to the body armor trademark. Now, the key here is that it's a non-cash charge. It's an adjustment on paper because their future growth outlook for the brand changed. So it looks like a massive hit in the reported numbers, but it didn't actually affect the cash they have in the bank. And that, right there, is the secret to that huge gap we saw. Okay, accounting mystery solved. Now we can get to the fun part. What's actually pushing this company forward? What's the engine keeping this whole thing running strong? And honestly, you don't have to look much farther than this. While some of their other drinks are kind of flat, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is just on an absolute tear, growing a massive 14% for the year. This tells you everything you need to know about where customer tastes are going, and that Coke is riding that zero sugar wave perfectly. But they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They are hustling to bring in the next generation of customers, and you can see a clear strategy here in the report. They're doing everything from a massive Fanta Halloween campaign to tying Powerade to huge sporting events and rolling out new innovations. It's all part of a clear plan to stay fresh and relevant.
So we know what's working product-wise, but a company named Coca-Cola isn't just a local operation, right? True health for them has to be global health. So let's zoom out and do a quick worldwide checkup.
This table really tells the story. You've got steady growth pretty much everywhere, which is great to see. But just look at Latin America, up a full 10% in organic revenue. That's huge. It's a powerful reminder that for a classic company like this, growth in new markets is just as important as holding down the fort in their traditional ones.
You know, a good health checkup isn't just about how you feel today. It's also about what you're doing to stay healthy for the long haul. So what's Coke's wellness plan? What's their strategy to keep thriving?
Well, it turns out they're making some really big moves. They brought in a chief digital officer to speed things up on the tech front. They're putting proven leaders in charge of key regions, and they're building these dedicated hubs just for innovation. This isn't just talk. These are real, structural changes to make the company faster and more agile.
And all those moves, it seems they're feeling pretty confident about them. Looking ahead to next year, the company is actually projecting 4 to 5% organic revenue growth. That's them basically saying, yeah, we think our plan's going to work. It's a pretty strong signal of optimism.
All right, we have seen a lot. We've checked the vitals, we've decoded the diagnosis, we've looked at the wellness plan. It's time to bring it all home and give our final prognosis, the big takeaways from this whole checkup.
So if you only remember a few things, make it these. First, the big picture numbers show the company is stable and growing steadily. Second, the real story was in the accounting details. That body armor charge is a perfect lesson in why you always have to look under the hood. Third, the growth is really being powered by star products like Coke Zero Sugar and smart marketing. And finally, this is not a company that's just sitting back. It's actively changing its structure to get ready for the future.
Which really brings us to the biggest question of all. Coca-Cola has been on top for more than 100 years, but the world is changing fast. Tastes are shifting towards health and wellness. So, are the moves they're making today the right ones to keep them dominant for another century? That, right there, is the billion-dollar question. Thanks for digging into this report with me.